Sorry, that's just not mine. And so what I thought would be what I am kind of hoping and planning for today is really just to provide a forum to have you ask some questions. I'm here as a resource more than here's a whole bunch of information, I can do that. And more likely than not, the information is going to be lost. You may remember bits and pieces, but it's just hard to get a whole thing or a whole slew of information in 20-25 minutes. So yeah, there's some kind of interesting things that I do want to bring out, but ultimately here it's to provide questions for you. So I'm going to ask you a question first. Does anybody know what this is? Very good. A little more specific.
Stars, galaxies.
Picture from the Hubble's telescope. Okay, very good. Do you know how big a space this would take up on the sky? Is this like looking at the whole night sky? How big a region is this on the sky? What's that? Somebody said that had a comment over here. Huge? Okay.
Is it really small?
Really, buddy? Well, here's an example. Okay, if you go out and you look at the moon in the sky, right? Okay, the moon takes up. In fact, if you put your thumb out at arm's length, everybody gets to do this. Fast participation, you know. Put your finger out at thumb's length, or your arm out at thumb's length. Your thumb will cover the moon. Everybody's thumb will about cover the moon.
Well, that's so cool.
That's pretty cool. Interestingly, it works the same way for the sun. They both happen to take the same amount of space on the sky. If you were to take the size of this image and ask how big on my thumb would that be, you can imagine taking a felt tip marker and making a dot on your thumb. It's about that large. So if the moon, whatever the size of it is, this is about 1/200th the area of the moon. So it's not a real large space. But how many stars do you think there are in that image? A lot.
500?
500,000.
But it's just galaxies. Do they count as one star? Or
Oh, you're getting ahead of me. The reality of it is, this is the only star in this image. The one here that's got this nice little cross. Everything else in there is a galaxy. And in fact, what they can do, and if you were to ask the question, how many are there in this object, it would be about 4,000. There are 4,000 things in there. In fact, you can zoom this in and there's stuff that you can't even see here. And what astronomers have been able to do is by using this image and saying, okay, we know how much space it takes on the sky, we can count how many objects there are in there, we know how many stars are in these galaxies, and then they've been able to say, all right, how many stars are there in the universe? And it turns out there's about 100 billion trillion stars in the universe that we can see. That's a few. Yeah, you're right. Just as a measure of how large that might be, or 10 to the 23, that's a fair number of stars. If you were to take all the beaches of the world and all the sand grains on those beaches, that's about the same as 10 to the 23. So there's about as many grains of sand as there are stars that we can see in the universe. Now it turns out there's only so far out we can see, and there's certainly more stars beyond that. So there's a whole lot more stars than what we can see even.